Let's bring in Taufiq Rahim. He's with us right here in the studio. Taufiq is a political analyst and director of strategy company GlobeSight, and he focuses on transformation projects right across the Middle East. It's good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. So what everyone wants to know really is whether the ceasefire is going to hold, how long is it going to last. But if you look at the finer print, is it addressing the underlying issues? Is it addressing the occupation and all that comes with the frustrations that Palestinians living in Gaza are having to deal with?
No, certainly not. I don't even think it's intended to. I think this ceasefire is specifically in response to the escalation that happened this month, and it solves that temporary problem, but really has punted any of the finer points, as you mentioned, to later down the line. And I don't think we'll see any addressal of those in a substantive way until after the Israeli elections.
So this is a very temporary issue. So we could find ourselves back in the same situation in a couple of months, in a couple of days, in a couple of years.
Well, that's the danger. And if we'll go back to 2008, when we had the tahtiyah between Hamas and Israel, the kind of first formalized truce that was facilitated by Egypt, it had a 6-month window, and we know what happened after that 6 months. You had Operation Cast Lead and over 1,000 deaths in Gaza in that conflict. So we're looking at perhaps a potentially dangerous situation in the next few months unless there are further steps taken.
And there's a feeling here that President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority has really been pushed aside, and Hamas has come out to the forefront right now.
Yeah, Hamas is definitely ascendant in the political landscape right now in the Arab world because of this conflict. We saw that many Arab leaders, prime ministers, foreign ministers, obviously the Prime Minister of Egypt most prominently, went to Gaza during the conflict. And Mahmoud Abbas, in many ways, until Hillary Clinton came to the region, was nowhere to be found. It remains to be seen how he tries to recover in the next few weeks, perhaps with his initiative at the UN. But it might be, and probably will be, a case of too little, too late, which has been the trend with Mahmoud Abbas in the last couple of years.
There's this theory that this might push Hamas and Fatah to reconcile. Is that something that you agree with?
I don't think, I mean, people can look in their crystal ball and determine that. Definitely Hamas has a stronger position, but there still isn't an incentive to bring the two parties together. Fatah still has their position in the West Bank. Gaza still has their position in Gaza. And until either of those parties wants to relinquish that control or risk relinquishing that control, I don't see how the equation changes. And that interest will only change if there's pressure from outside, pressure, to be truthful, from this region in the Gulf on those two parties to change their positions.
Let's just look at Egypt's role here for a second, because we know that Egypt has played a major role in trying to secure the ceasefire. It's also established Egypt and Mohammed Morsi as an important regional player, a heavyweight at this point. But how well does this play into Israel's hands? Because for many years, Israel has wanted to push, as it calls, the problem of Gaza onto Egypt.
Sure. I do think that while Egypt and Morsi come across as quite prominent in this truce, in this negotiation, and Morsi has demonstrated his role as a statesman, kind of countering what people's expectations might have had been for a Muslim Brotherhood leader, president of Egypt, I do think now the pressure will be on Egypt itself, because focus will be on the border with the Rafah crossing, the border with Egypt, and perhaps pushing and pressuring Egypt to open that, especially considering that many of the tunnels, which were the transport routes for a lot of food and basic supplies, have been damaged in this conflict. So I definitely expect there to be a lot more pressure in the coming weeks on Egypt for the situation in Gaza. And so in that way, Israel does have a little bit of a mini victory in terms of, I think, partially transferring responsibility of this crisis.
All right, very interesting. Thank you very much, Taufiq
Rahim.
Thank you.